I was beaten by my brother-in-law. My face was covered in blood, my shoulder wrenched out of its socket. And my sister? She just looked at me lying there and said, "You should have signed the mortgage." All because I refused to guarantee their home loan. I dragged myself to my parents' doorstep, begging for help before everything went black. What happened next left even the police shaken. My name is Audrey. I'm 32 years old, and I never imagined the day would come when my own sister would stand there and watch me bleed. Growing up, Natalie was everything to me, my protector, my guide. 5 years older, she shielded me from bullies on the playground, helped me stumble through homework, and made sure no one ever messed with her little sister. When she married Greg 3 years ago, I welcomed him with open arms. He seemed good for her, charming, confident, a man who adored my sister. So when they came to me asking for help with their mortgage, I thought it was just a conversation, a favor between family. I had no idea that saying no would end with my shoulder dislocated and blood streaming down my face while Natalie stood frozen, watching her husband destroy me. Before I go on, tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself, hit that like button and subscribe. Natalie and I grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Michigan. Our parents weren't wealthy, but they worked hard. Dad taught economics at the local high school. Mom was a nurse. They taught us the value of education, the importance of saving, and how to be smart with money. Always keep 6 months of expenses saved, Dad would say, helping us open our first bank accounts. And never risk more than you can afford to lose. Those words stuck with me. Natalie, though, she was different, more spontaneous, less cautious. But we were close, inseparable, really. When she left for college, I cried for days. I missed our late-night talks, the way she always knew how to make me laugh. I followed her to college 4 years later, working part-time to cover what my scholarships didn't. While Natalie changed majors twice, I stayed focused on business administration. After graduation, I landed a job at a marketing firm and worked my way up to office manager by 29. Last year, I bought my own condo, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy, but it was mine, proof that all those years of saving and budgeting had paid off. Natalie's path was different. She bounced between jobs after college, never quite settling. Then 3 years ago, she met Greg at a barbecue. They moved fast, engaged within 6 months, married soon after. I was her maid of honor. I gave a speech about our bond, about how happy I was to welcome Greg into our family. At first, I thought he was good for her. He worked in sales for a telecom company. The income fluctuated, but they seemed fine. Natalie took a part-time job at a boutique, more for fun than necessity. But over time, things changed. The sister who used to shop at thrift stores and hunt for bargains started talking about designer labels. She'd make little comments about my practical car, suggesting I should treat myself to something nicer. Greg started asking questions about my salary, my condo's value. At the time, I thought it was just conversation, sales guy talk. I didn't realize he was sizing me up. 6 months ago, Greg mentioned they were thinking about investment properties. "Real estate is where true wealth is built," he said during Sunday dinner. My parents exchanged glances. Later, Dad pulled me aside. "Investment requires knowledge and caution. I hope Greg knows what he's doing." Around that time, I started dating Tyler. He's a police officer, kind, steady, practical, like me. Greg seemed oddly competitive with him. He'd interrupt Tyler at family gatherings, dismiss his career as limiting. Tyler noticed, but never made an issue of it, for my sake. Looking back, I can see how Greg was laying the groundwork, assessing my finances, building an image of success that didn't match reality. And Natalie was getting pulled deeper into his world, where appearances mattered more than truth. The last peaceful family moment we had was my 30th birthday, 4 months ago. Natalie gave me a handmade bracelet, like the ones we used to make as kids. For a moment, I saw my old sister again, the one who valued connection over material things. I had no idea how fast everything would fall apart. The call came on a Tuesday evening. Natalie's voice bubbled with excitement. "Come over for dinner. We have amazing news." I assumed they were expecting a baby. I showed up with wine, ready to celebrate. The apartment was spotless, candles lit, a lavish meal on the table. Greg was unusually attentive, keeping my glass filled, pulling out my chair. After dessert, he showed me photos on his phone. A gorgeous 2-story colonial, wraparound porch, manicured lawn. "We found our dream home," Natalie said, eyes shining. 4 bedrooms, gourmet kitchen. The master bath has this incredible soaking tub. "Wow," I said. "That's beautiful. Are you seriously considering it?" "We already put in an offer," Greg said, grinning. "It was accepted this morning." I nearly choked. The house looked like it cost $500,000, way more than they could afford. Greg must have read my face. "I know what you're thinking, but I'm in line for a major promotion. Regional director. It's practically mine." This was the first I'd heard of any promotion. In fact, Greg had changed companies twice since marrying Natalie. Each time he called it a strategic move. Each time, the success he promised never materialized. "That's great," I said carefully. "When would you close?" Natalie reached for my hand. "That's actually why we wanted to talk to you. The bank needs a little extra security. With Greg's recent job change, they're asking for a guarantor." My stomach dropped. "Your credit score is excellent," Greg continued smoothly. "Stable job history. We just need you to co-sign. It's really just a formality. You wouldn't need to contribute anything financially." The casual way they said it stunned me. Being a guarantor meant I'd be legally responsible for their mortgage if they couldn't pay. Given Greg's track record and their comfort with overspending, this was far from a formality. "This is a big decision," I said. "Can I have some time to think about it?" Greg's smile tightened. "Of course, but we need to let the bank know by next week to lock in our rate." Driving home, my mind raced. Dad's lessons echoed in my head. The next day, I researched what being a guarantor actually meant. The more I learned, the more alarmed I became. If they missed payments, my credit would tank. If they defaulted, I could lose my condo, my savings, everything I'd worked for. I met with my financial advisor, Linda. She didn't sugarcoat it. This would be an enormous risk. From what you've told me about their situation, I'd strongly advise against it. 3 days later, I invited Natalie for coffee. Just us, no Greg. "I've been researching what being a guarantor means," I said gently. "It's actually a much bigger commitment than Greg made it sound." She stirred her latte slowly. "I know it sounds scary, but we'd never put you in a bad position, Audrey. Greg is absolutely getting that promotion." "But what if something unexpected happens? What if the promotion doesn't come through?" She sighed. "There you go again, always planning for the worst. Can't you just trust us?" "I do trust you, but this is business. Mixing family with major financial commitments can get complicated. Maybe there are other options, like waiting until Greg actually has the promotion?" Disappointment clouded her face, but she nodded. "I understand your concerns. Let me talk to Greg." I thought it had gone well, but that evening, Greg texted me. "Natalie told me about your concerns. Thought you'd support your sister's happiness. Guess blood isn't as thick as water after all." That was just the beginning. At Sunday dinner, tried to explain my position. He cut me off. "We've done the math," he said sharply. "We can afford this house. We just need your signature for the bank's red tape." "If you've done the math, surely you can show me the budget breakdown," I suggested. "That would help me feel more comfortable." His voice rose. "So now we need to prove ourselves to you? Your sister isn't enough of a guarantee?" My parents exchanged worried glances. Dad cleared his throat. "Financial decisions shouldn't be rushed." "There's no time," Greg snapped. "The market is competitive. This opportunity won't wait." As the evening ended, Natalie hugged me stiffly. "I thought I could count on you," she whispered. The hurt in her voice pierced me. Later, Mom walked me to my car. "Be careful, Audrey. Your father and I have noticed Greg can be intense about getting his way. Whatever you decide, make sure it's what you truly believe is right." That night, Tyler listened as I explained everything. "Audrey, this raises some red flags. Financial entanglement is often the first step in controlling relationships. Just be careful. And remember, saying no to something that makes you uncomfortable isn't the same as saying no to your sister." His words strengthened my resolve. but I had no idea how impossible that balance would become. 2 weeks of silence followed. I tried reaching out to Natalie, but got only brief, cold responses. Then one Tuesday morning she called. Her voice was strained. "The bank needs an answer by Friday. We need to know if you're going to help us or not." "I've given this a lot of thought," I said carefully, "and I just don't think I can take on that level of financial risk." "Risk?" Her tone sharpened. "This isn't about risk, Audrey. This is about family loyalty. Remember when I loaned you $300 for your car repair in college? I didn't ask questions or worry about risk." The comparison was absurd. A small short-term loan versus a 30-year mortgage guarantee? Before I could respond, she continued, "Mom and Dad are disappointed too. They raised us to support each other. And Greg says Tyler is probably poisoning you against us." I called my parents immediately. As I suspected, they'd never said any such thing. In fact, they'd told Natalie to respect my choice. 2 days later, while I was conducting job interviews at work, the receptionist called. "You have visitors." Greg and Natalie stood in the lobby, both dressed formally. "We need to talk," Greg said firmly. "It can't wait." Aware of my professional environment, I led them to a conference room. "I'm in the middle of interviews. What's so urgent?" Greg placed a folder on the table. "We brought the mortgage paperwork. All we need is your signature." "I told Natalie my decision," I said, keeping my voice level. "It hasn't changed." Greg's face hardened. "Do you have any idea what this house means to us? This is our future, our family." "I understand, but there are other houses, other options that wouldn't require a guarantor." "We don't want other options." His voice rose. "This is the house we want, the neighborhood we need for our future kids. Are you really going to deny your future nieces and nephews a safe place to grow up?" The emotional manipulation was blatant. Natalie sat silently, letting Greg attack. When she finally spoke, her words shocked me. "If you can't do this one thing for me, Audrey, maybe we need to reevaluate our relationship. Sisters are supposed to be there for each other, no matter what." I felt physically ill. "Natalie, this isn't about not wanting to help you. This is about making a sound financial decision." "Protects you, you mean," Greg sneered. "Always looking out for yourself first." When they left, I was shaking. That weekend, my parents tried to diffuse tensions over dinner, but Natalie deliberately brought up the house. "We might lose our dream home because some people don't understand family commitment," she announced, staring at me. Dad frowned. "Natalie, we agreed not to discuss this tonight." "Why not? It's all that matters right now. Audrey is being selfish and everyone's tiptoeing around it." "Financial decisions are personal," Mom said gently. "Your sister has the right to make her own choices." "So you're taking her side too." Greg put his arm around Natalie. "Come on, babe. It's clear where everyone stands. Your sister has her precious financial security, and we lose our future." They left abruptly. As they drove away, Mom squeezed my hand. "Stay strong, sweetheart. This isn't really about the house. Something else is going on with them." She was right. The following week, I started getting strange calls about credit checks I hadn't authorized. My bank contacted me about unusual activity. Someone was trying to access my financial information. My anxiety spiraled. Tyler suggested I change all my passwords and set up fraud alerts. This isn't normal family disagreement anymore. Greg is showing signs of financial desperation, and that can be dangerous. Seeking clarity, I scheduled another appointment with Linda. With my permission, she conducted a deeper investigation. "Audrey, there are serious red flags here," she said gravely. "Greg has significant undisclosed debt, multiple maxed-out credit cards, a personal loan in collections, and a previous mortgage default from before he married your sister." I was stunned. Did Natalie even know? Armed with this information, I made my final decision. I refused. But I didn't just say no. I spent an evening preparing an information packet with alternative financing options, listings for more affordable homes, resources for first-time buyers. I truly believed that offering solutions would help preserve my relationship with Natalie while protecting myself. I had no idea How wrong I was. It was a quiet Thursday evening. I'd just finished the information packet when aggressive pounding shook my door. Through the peephole, I saw Greg's face, contorted with rage. Natalie stood behind him, arms crossed. "Audrey, open the door," Greg shouted, pounding again. My heart raced. I texted Tyler, "Greg here, very angry," then opened the door with the chain still engaged. "What's going on? Why are you pounding on my door this late?" Greg's face was flushed, eyes bloodshot. "Take off the chain. We need to talk." "It's pretty late. Can this wait until tomorrow? I actually have some information I was going to—" Before I could finish, he slammed his shoulder against the door. The security chain snapped. I stumbled backward as Greg pushed inside, Natalie following. "Greg, you need to leave right now," I said, reaching for my phone. "This isn't okay." He snatched the phone from my hand and threw it across the room. "Nothing about this is okay," he snarled. "Do you have any idea what you've done to us?" "I didn't do anything to you. I just couldn't take on the financial risk. But I've been researching alternatives." I gestured toward the folder on my dining table. Greg grabbed it, flipped through it, then threw it against the wall. Papers scattered everywhere. "Cheaper houses? First-time buyer programs?" His voice dripped with contempt. "You think we want your charity? Your condescending little solutions?" "Greg, please," Natalie finally spoke. "Let's just go. She's made her choice." "No. I want her to understand what she's done." Greg turned back to me, his face inches from mine. I could smell alcohol on his breath. "The sellers accepted another offer today. Do you know why? Because they got tired of waiting for our financing. Financing that would have been secured weeks ago if you just signed the papers." "I'm sorry you lost the house," I said, fear mixing with anger. "But there will be other houses, better ones you can afford without needing a guarantor." "Afford?" Greg's laugh was ugly. "You think you know everything about our finances?" "Actually, I do know some things," I said. "I know about the maxed-out credit cards, Greg, the personal loan and collections, your previous mortgage default." The color drained from his face. "You had no right. I had every right when you were asking me to guarantee hundreds of thousands of dollars. Did Natalie even know about all this?" I looked at my sister, whose expression shifted from resolve to confusion. "Natalie, did you know?" "Don't talk to her," Greg growled, stepping between us. "No, it's not," I insisted, trying to move around him. "Natalie deserves to know the truth. This isn't just about a house. Greg has serious financial problems he's been hiding." "Shut up," Greg roared. And then his hand shot out. He shoved me hard against the wall. The back of my head hit with a sickening thud. Pain exploded through my skull. "Greg!" Natalie gasped, but she didn't move to stop him. I tried to push away, but he grabbed my shoulders and slammed me back again. Something in my right shoulder gave way with an audible pop. I screamed. The sound only enraged him further. "You think you're so much better than us," he snarled, "with your perfect credit score and your responsible job? Always judging, always thinking you know best." I raised my good arm to protect my face, but he caught my wrist and twisted. Pain shot through my arm. "Stop it! You're hurting me," I cried, looking desperately at my sister. "Natalie, please help me." What happened next was a blur of motion and agony. His fist connected with my face. The impact sent shockwaves through my skull. I tasted blood as my lips split open. Another blow caught my cheekbone. Something crunched. Warm liquid streamed down my face as I collapsed to the floor, my dislocated shoulder sending waves of pain through my body. Through tear-blurred vision, I saw Natalie standing frozen, hands covering her mouth, watching, just watching. I reached toward her with my good arm. "Natalie, please," I begged. She finally moved, took a single step forward. "Greg, that's enough. Let's go." Not to help me, not to stop him, just to leave. Greg stepped back, breathing heavily, looking down at me with contempt. "You brought this on yourself," he spat. As they moved toward the door, I managed to choke out, "Natalie, how can you let him do this?" My sister paused in the doorway. Her face was a mask I didn't recognize. The stranger wearing my sister's face looked at me coldly and said the words that would haunt me forever. "You should have just signed the mortgage." Then they were gone, leaving me bleeding on my apartment floor, betrayed by the person I'd trusted most my entire life. The physical pain was excruciating, but it paled in comparison to the shattering of my heart as I realized my sister had chosen to side with my attacker rather than help me in my moment of greatest need. I don't know how long I lay there, drifting between shock and waves of pain. Blood pooled beside me. Every movement sent lightning bolts through my dislocated shoulder. My phone lay shattered where Greg had thrown it. Useless. Eventually, survival instinct kicked in. I needed help. Using only my left arm, I dragged myself to sitting, fighting dizziness and nausea. The room swam in and out of focus. My neighbors were mostly young professionals who kept to themselves. Screaming might work, but I wasn't sure I could make enough noise. The only option was to somehow get to my car and drive to my parents' house, 15 minutes away. Each movement was agony as I crawled to where my purse had fallen. Finding my keys brought tears of relief. Getting to my feet nearly made me black out. I leaned against the wall for several minutes, breathing through clenched teeth until the room stabilized. The journey from my second-floor apartment to the parking lot was a nightmare. I could only use the railing with my left hand, descending sideways, one agonizing step at a time. Twice, I nearly fell. By the time I reached my car, my blouse was soaked with blood and sweat. Driving one-handed with a dislocated shoulder and possible concussion was dangerous, but I had no choice. I drove slowly, focusing intently through my one eye that wasn't swelling shut. Each traffic light felt like an eternity. Every bump sent fresh waves of pain through my body. I kept talking aloud to stay conscious. "Almost there. Just a few more blocks. Stay awake. Keep driving." The 15-minute drive took nearly 40 minutes. When I finally turned onto my parents' street, relief nearly overwhelmed me. Their porch light was on, a beacon of safety. I parked haphazardly and staggered to their door. My attempt to ring the doorbell turned into me slumping against the frame, my strength finally deserting me. I weakly knocked, leaving smears of blood on their white door. "Who is it?" Dad's voice came through. "Dad," I whispered, "it's me." The door swung open. I'll never forget the horror that transformed my parents' faces. Mom's screams seemed to come from far away. Dad's arms caught me as my legs gave out. "Greg," I managed to say. "He attacked me. Natalie watched." Then I collapsed, the safety of my childhood home finally allowing me to surrender to the pain. I vaguely registered being lowered to the floor as Mom frantically dialed 911. "My daughter has been assaulted," I heard her saying through tears. "She's bleeding badly. Her shoulder looks dislocated. Please hurry." Dad's voice was tight with rage and fear. "Who did this, Audrey? Did you say Greg?" I tried to nod, which sent fresh pain through my skull. "Mortgage," I mumbled, "because I wouldn't sign." "Dear God," Mom sobbed. Her face is barely recognizable. The wait for the ambulance felt eternal. Mom held a cold compress to my face while Dad kept talking to me, trying to keep me conscious. Finally, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the room. Paramedics rushed in, followed by police officers. As the medical team assessed my injuries, one officer knelt beside me. "Ma'am, can you tell me who did this?" "Greg Walsh," I whispered, "my sister's husband." "And where did this happen?" "My apartment, about an hour ago." The officer's face hardened. "And you drove yourself here in this condition?" I managed a slight nod. "Jesus," he muttered, then caught himself. "I mean, that shows incredible strength. Let's get you medical attention first. We'll need a formal statement later." The ambulance ride was a blur of pain and medical jargon. BP dropping, possible orbital fracture, dislocated shoulder, concussion protocol. They gave me something for the pain that softened the world's edges without completely removing me from it. In the emergency room, a team swarmed around me. X-rays confirmed the dislocated shoulder. The procedure to reset it was excruciating despite medication. My face required multiple stitches. The ophthalmologist expressed concern about potential damage to my right eye from the orbital bone fracture. Imprisoned sometime during this whirlwind, Tyler appeared, still in uniform. He must have come straight from his shift after seeing my text. "Audrey," he choked, taking my hand gently. "I'm so sorry. I got your message but was handling an accident scene. By the time I was free, you didn't answer." "Not your fault," I managed through swollen lips. His professional demeanor cracked. I saw tears before he blinked them away. "The responding officers are my colleagues. They're already looking for Greg. Do you want me to step out while you give your statement, or would you like me to stay?" "Stay," I whispered. "Please stay." The detective who took my statement was thorough, recording every detail. When I described Natalie's response and her parting words, his pen paused. "Your sister witnessed the entire assault and did nothing to intervene?" "Yes," I confirmed. "She watched, then left with him." My parents arrived after giving their own statements. Dad's face was tight with controlled fury. Mom's eyes streamed with tears. As pain medication pulled me toward sleep, I heard Tyler speaking quietly with my parents. "This goes beyond domestic dispute. The level of violence, the premeditation. We're looking at serious felony charges." "And Natalie?" Mom asked, her voice breaking. "There may be charges for her as well. At minimum, failure to report a crime. Possibly accessory after the fact." "How did we not see this coming?" Dad's voice was hollow. "How did we miss what kind of man he was?" "Abusers are skilled at presenting different faces," Tyler explained gently. "And financial desperation can trigger violence in people with underlying control issues." Their voices faded as I drifted into medicated sleep. My last conscious thought was wonder at how completely my life had shattered in a single evening, and how the sister I'd loved had become a stranger who watched me bleed without lifting a finger to help. The morning brought harsh fluorescent lights and the full reality of what had happened. My parents were already there, Mom dozing in the visitor's chair, Dad standing at the window, rigid with contained rage. A nurse came to check vitals and change my dressing. She held up a small mirror. I hardly recognized the person staring back. My right eye was swollen completely shut, surrounded by deep purple bruising. Stitches zigzagged across my eyebrow and upper lip. My face was so distorted, I looked like a grotesque caricature of myself. "The swelling will go down significantly," the nurse assured me kindly, "and the plastic surgeon did an excellent job. The scars should be minimal." Scars. I would have scars from this. Physical reminders of my sister's betrayal that I'd see every time I looked in a mirror. 2 police officers arrived mid-morning. Detective Sarah Martinez introduced herself as part of the domestic violence unit. For the next hour, I recounted every detail. Officer Jenkins photographed my injuries, his jaw tightening with each shot. "Have they found Greg yet?" I asked when they finished. Detective Martinez shook her head. "Not yet, but we have officers at their apartment and your sister's workplace. There's an alert out for his vehicle. We'll find him." "And my sister?" The officers exchanged glances. "We'd like to speak with her as well. Her role needs clarification." After they left, Dad finally spoke. "The locksmith is changing your apartment locks today. You'll stay with us until we figure out something more permanent." "Dad, I can't impose." "This isn't a discussion, Audrey. That man knows where you live. Until he's in custody, you're not staying alone." His protectiveness nearly broke me. Where was this protection when I was being beaten? Why hadn't Natalie shown even a fraction of this concern? I was released from the hospital with my arm in a sling, prescriptions for pain medication, and instructions for concussion recovery. The prosecutor's office contacted me about pressing charges. They made it clear that given the severity, they'd proceed regardless of whether I wanted to. "This level of violence cannot go unanswered," the assistant district attorney explained. "The state has an interest in prosecuting violent offenders, regardless of family connections." On my 3rd day home at my parents' house, police finally apprehended Greg at a motel 30 miles outside town. Natalie was with him. The news brought conflicting emotions: relief that he was in custody, fresh pain that my sister had chosen to flee with my attacker rather than check if I was even alive. I filed for restraining orders against both Greg and, with tremendous heartache, Natalie. The court granted them immediately. My colleagues at work were incredibly supportive, arranging for me to work remotely. Friends rallied around me, dropping off meals and offering rides to appointments. Spent every free moment by my side, his steady presence a balm to my shattered sense of security. The night before the preliminary hearing, Mom received a call from Natalie. She put it on speakerphone. "Mom, this has gone too far," Natalie's voice sounded thin and desperate. "Greg made a mistake, but Audrey's blowing this out of proportion. She needs to drop these charges." Dad made a strangled sound. Mom's voice was ice cold. "A mistake? Your husband broke into your sister's home and beat her so severely she needed hospitalization. She drove herself to our house with a concussion and dislocated shoulder because you left her bleeding on the floor." "You don't understand. Greg lost his job over this. We could lose everything." "Audrey could have lost her life," Dad erupted. "Have you seen what he did to her face? She may have permanent damage to her eye socket." "I know it looks bad, but if she drops the charges, Greg will get anger management counseling." "Natalie, listen to me carefully," Dad said. "Your husband committed a serious crime. He belongs in jail. If you continue to support him after what he did, you are no daughter of mine." Silence. When Natalie finally spoke, her voice was cold. "I see who you've chosen. Don't expect to hear from us again unless Audrey comes to her senses." The line went dead. Mom's hands shook as she placed the phone down. Dad wrapped his arm around her. "How did we raise a daughter who could be so cruel?" she whispered. "This isn't your fault," I said, reaching for her hand. "Greg has been manipulating her for years. We just didn't see it." The preliminary hearing was my first time seeing them since the attack. Embroidered entered the courtroom with Tyler and my parents flanking me. The sight of them made me physically ill. Greg sat beside his attorney in a suit that seemed deliberately too large. Natalie sat directly behind him, her face a mask of resentment. The bailiff read the charges: aggravated assault, breaking and entering, criminal threatening, attempted coercion. Greg's attorney entered a not guilty plea, requesting bail despite the prosecutor's argument that he posed a flight risk. The judge set bail at $100,000 with strict conditions, including GPS monitoring and explicit orders to have no contact with me or my family. As Greg was led away, Natalie caught my eye across the courtroom. There was no remorse in her gaze, only cold accusation, as though I were the one who had destroyed the family. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered. Dad shielded me from cameras while Tyler helped me into the car. The local news that evening featured my bruised face as evidence of the violence that had erupted over what they called a family financial dispute. Over the following weeks, as my physical injuries began to heal, the emotional trauma intensified. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma and family betrayal. She diagnosed me with PTSD. When someone we trust implicitly harms us or allows harm to come to us, it damages our fundamental ability to feel safe, she explained. Recovery involves not just healing from the event itself, but rebuilding your sense of safety and trust. Greg's attorney approached my lawyer with a plea offer. Greg would plead guilty to a lesser charge if I agreed to make no victim impact statement. I refused immediately. The full truth needed to be on record. As the trial date approached, pressure from Natalie intensified. She sent letters to our parents claiming I was destroying their family over one bad moment. She attempted to contact my friends, painting me as vindictive. When these efforts failed, she showed up at my parents' house late one night, hysterical, demanding to see me. Dad called the police, reporting her for violating the restraining order. When officers arrived, they found Natalie pounding on the door, screaming that I'd ruined her life. Her arrest was the final fracture in our already splintered family. The trial itself was brief. The evidence was overwhelming. My medical records, photographs of my injuries, my testimony, And most damning, security footage from my apartment building showing Greg breaking in and Natalie following him without coercion. The prosecutor also presented evidence of Greg's financial deception, documentation of hidden debt, previous mortgage default, everything that had triggered his desperate attempt to secure my guarantee. When it was my turn to testify, I looked directly at Greg as I described the attack in detail. Then I turned to where Natalie sat and recounted her final words to me as I lay bleeding. "You should have just signed the mortgage." The courtroom fell silent. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. At sentencing, the judge didn't mince words. "Mr. Walsh, you committed a brutal assault against a family member who simply refused to put herself in financial jeopardy for your benefit. You've shown no genuine remorse. This court sentences you to 8 years in state prison." As Greg was led away in handcuffs, Natalie's anguished cry echoed through the courtroom. Not for me, her sister, who still carried the scars of her husband's violence, but for the man who had inflicted those scars. In that moment, I accepted what I'd been fighting to deny. The sister I had loved was gone, replaced by someone I no longer knew or wanted in my life. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by my parents, Tyler, and friends who had supported me throughout this ordeal, I faced the reporters' cameras with my head held high. My scars visible, a testament to both violence endured and justice achieved. 6 months after sentencing, physical therapy had restored most function in my shoulder. The plastic surgeon had done remarkable work minimizing facial scarring, but a thin white line above my right eyebrow and another at the corner of my lip remained. Visible reminders of that night. The deeper scars were healing more slowly. My parents helped me find a new apartment in a secure building with 24-hour security. I'd initially resisted, not wanting to live in fear. But my therapist helped me understand the difference between fear and prudent caution. The nightmares had decreased from nightly occurrences to perhaps once a week. I no longer jumped at every unexpected knock. Small victories, hard won through therapy and unwavering support. Tyler had been my rock throughout recovery, never pushing, always present. When he surprised me with a weekend getaway 3 months after the trial, I found myself able to truly relax for the first time. "I'm proud of you," he said, as we watched the sunset over the water. "Not just for surviving, but for how you've handled everything. Your strength amazes me." My career became another anchor. 2 months after the trial, I received a promotion to operations director, a position with both greater responsibility and flexibility for therapy appointments. Natalie remained a complicated absence. After Greg's sentencing, she'd moved in with a friend, unable to maintain the apartment alone. According to Mom, who maintained minimal contact, Natalie had filed for divorce 3 months into Greg's sentence when reality became impossible to ignore. One rainy afternoon, I received a letter in her handwriting. I held it for several minutes, uncertain whether opening it would represent progress or setback. Eventually, curiosity won. "Audrey," it began, "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve to ask for it. But I need you to know I'm getting help now. My therapist says I was in an emotionally abusive relationship that distorted my thinking and loyalties. That's not an excuse for what I did, or failed to do, that night. Nothing can excuse that. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could watch her sister be hurt and do nothing. If you ever want to talk, I'd welcome it. If not, I understand. Either way, I'm sorry. Natalie." The letter stirred complicated emotions. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as too little, too late. Another part recognized the courage it took to acknowledge such profound moral failure. I showed it to my therapist. "How does this letter make you feel?" she asked. "Confused," I admitted. "Part of me wants to believe she's genuinely sorry, but I don't know if I can ever trust her again, or if I even want to try." "Reconciliation isn't an obligation," she reminded me. "It's a choice, one that should be made based on what supports your healing, not on family expectations or guilt. Whatever you decide should be on your timeline, not hers. I decided not to respond immediately, giving myself permission to sit with the complexity without forcing resolution. As my confidence rebuilt, I found myself drawn to sharing what I'd learned. 6 months after the trial, I approached the local community college about hosting a financial education workshop for women. The focus was financial independence as a form of self-protection, building emergency funds, understanding legal implications of co-signed loans. The first workshop drew 30 participants. By the third session, we'd moved to a larger venue for over 70 women. Tyler attended the fourth workshop, sitting quietly in the back. Afterward, he approached with a small velvet box in his hand. "I was going to plan some elaborate proposal," he said, voice nervous. "But watching you tonight, seeing how you've transformed your pain into purpose, I couldn't wait another day to ask you to share your life with me." The ring was simple and elegant, a single diamond in a classic setting. It represented everything I'd come to value: clarity, strength, and enduring beauty that emerges from pressure. My immediate instinct was to say yes, but I paused, honoring my promise to make deliberate rather than reactive decisions. "Can I think about it?" I asked gently. "Not because I don't love you, but because I want to be sure I'm saying yes for the right reasons, not from fear or dependency." His smile was tender with understanding. "Take all the time you need. The question will still be here when you're ready." 2 weeks later, after deep reflection and discussion with my therapist about healthy versus reactive relationship choices, I gave him my answer over dinner at my new apartment. The yes came not from fear or need, but from a place of strength and genuine choice. As spring turned to summer, I volunteered at the local domestic violence shelter. Once a week, I sat with women whose stories echoed aspects of my own, offering not just practical advice, but living proof that survival and rebuilding were possible. The hardest lesson I learned, I told a group during one session, was that family isn't defined by blood or obligation. True family consists of people who protect rather than endanger you, who respect your boundaries rather than demand their violation, who value your well-being as much as their own desires. 1 year to the day after the attack, I stood before my bathroom mirror and really looked at my scars. The physical marks had faded significantly, though they'd never disappear completely. I traced the line above my eyebrow gently, no longer seeing it as a mark of victimhood, but as evidence of survival. That evening, Tyler and I hosted a small dinner party at my apartment, a deliberate reclaiming of space that had once been violated. My parents were there, along with close friends and colleagues who'd supported my recovery. Conspicuously absent was Natalie, though I'd finally responded to her letter the week before, suggesting we meet for coffee someday soon. A small opening toward whatever new relationship might be possible. As we raised glasses in a toast, I looked around at these people who had become my chosen family, who had demonstrated through actions rather than mere words what love and support truly meant. The journey had been brutal, the loss profound. But standing there, surrounded by genuine connection, I recognized the precious wisdom that had emerged from trauma. "Discharge to boundaries that protect," I offered as a toast, "courage that rebuilds, and love that respects. And to all of you who showed me what true family means." Later, as guests departed and Tyler helped clean up, he asked if I was okay, noticing my momentary quiet reflection. "I'm more than okay," I realized aloud. "For the first time since it happened, I feel genuinely at peace. Not because everything is perfect or because all wounds are healed, but because I know now that I can trust myself to protect what matters, to choose wisely, and to rebuild no matter what falls apart." Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and your own well-being? Thank you for listening. Take care. Good luck.